Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're going to be talking about the latest jobs report, what the Fed may or may not do here as we get into some more data that they see as favorable. The new DOJ ruling that might or will reopen the NAR investigation that was closed 4 or 5 years ago at this point, and the home buyer and seller trends report from NAR that just came out for 2024. So if you get some value out of this, you like what you hear, make sure to click subscribe on the channel, the bell for notifications, and if you want to schedule a call about your real estate needs with Sarah, you can do so right in the link in the comments. So, it's been interesting. Just with this NAR lawsuit, I think all the economic stuff that we have talked about so much on the show has kind of taken a back seat. And now we're starting to see some things that are, in my view, pretty good for people that want like the Fed to, be a little more relaxed about rate cuts and the things people are hoping, Sarah. So what we saw was this jobs report came out, and the labor report, it gets pretty. I mean, how do you feel about reading these labor reports? I mean, a little over your head. Okay.
But a lot of it is just kind of like, all right.
Well, and that's what we're here to break down, because I think that's the challenge. A lot of people probably feel exactly the same way you do. So the jobs report that came out last week, it was on April the 5th. It beat estimates, but the internals show that the labor market is softening, which is what the Fed wants. So what the main takeaways were is wage growth is cooling down. Job opening quit rates are below pre-pandemic levels, which bode well for those people that want to see like a soft landing with the economy. So the fact that we're seeing these things kind of return to pre-pandemic levels, in my view, I think that means we could see maybe that third quarter rate cut that we're all hoping for. And when you look at the CPI inflation growth right now, it's at 3.2%. The 10-year yield is at 4.36%. But we actually had lower mortgage rates with hotter inflation data. So how are your clients reacting to all this stuff? Is this even on their radar right now? I think that's probably the big question.
I would say the labor market, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, because interest rates now have been, I looked the other day and it's 6.75 and then it's 6.5. I know I'm on buyer estimated cost sheets, usually going with a higher estimate, just so that things are more likely to come down as we get the final numbers in. But I haven't seen a ton of, if I'm preparing something at 6.5 or 6.75, honestly, I haven't had much pushback between the two. We're kind of in that area.
I do agree that buyers are okay with where rates are now. These people that are going to really transact. I mean, a year ago, it was constantly we're going to wait for rates to come down. And now that they're stabilized, it's been a lot more normal. That's certainly been a major plus. And one of the things you're doing, I think, is really critical is those cost estimates, every time you go look at a house, what's the payment going to be? Because there's a lot of variables in there with taxes, with insurance, with a couple other things. And, my hope here is that once and what we've seen already happen is that, inventory is starting to grow. Active listings are growing, new listings are growing. So the hope is that as the jobs claims and the jobs report, the market softens a little bit, because the labor market's it's been incredible what's happened with unemployment and hiring and wage growth. And now this is finally starting to cool. That may give the Fed what they want, where they feel like they can actually make a rate cut in the second quarter here. What's your observation if rates did come? Where do you think they would need to go to for the market to open up for the clients you're working with? Not that the market's not busy. It's very there's a lot happening right now.
I would say, I actually have a handful of clients right now, buyers, that are motivated and obviously would like if the rates were lower, but are okay moving forward and putting in offers where they are now. Then there's, certainly others that probably if it fell below 6% would be more inclined to make a move. But as I've kind of told them, when that happens, we really need to bring it back to monthly payment, because more likely than not, it's going to drive up competition. And ultimately, you may have the same monthly payment. You're going to pay more with a lower rate versus, it kind of comes back to that.
And I agree with you there. I mean, because you can't really control these payments. I mean, we can't, or the rates, excuse me. I mean, you can't sit here. You look at all the things involved. We're talking about like jobs reports and, the average change in hourly wages and all these things the Fed's looking at. We can't control any of that stuff. And something could happen tomorrow that's unforeseen. So monthly payment is the absolute way you want to quote folks. So I think that's pretty smart. And my anticipation here is this is the Fed meetings have taken a backseat because it's been more of the same. It's been, hey, we're holding rates. We're holding rates. And they talked about making a number of rate cuts this year. The CME group does a really nice job. Let me pull up the odds here of what to expect at the next Fed meeting, which is coming in 21 days. And right now we're at 525 to 550 on the federal funds rate. There's a 97.3% chance that's where we see the rates stay at the next meeting. So I think we're going to probably see more of the same here from the Fed, and they're going to let the second quarter play out. These are good early signs, but I don't think you can read too much into it. And ultimately, I mean, this typically when you see rates come down historically, you see them like drop in the summertime. Like you don't see mortgage rates come down in the middle of the spring market. So with that in mind, we've seen inventory start to grow here overall. We're pretty close to the inventory peak already for 2023. We're seeing inventories up anywhere, if you look at the numbers, from 6% to 17% year over year. And a lot of people are calling for inventory to grow faster for a more healthy housing market, meaning it's healthy for everybody, not just sellers. So what's the inventory climate been like for the people you're working with? Because I'm feeling like there's more options out there. I'm feeling like buyers are a little more optimistic than they were this time last year. And, even though we're in this April market here, I think we're going to see massive growth from April to June. And then it's going to be really interesting to see what happens after that. What are you observing with inventory growth right now? Because I know we've seen it kind of jump up and down here compared to where we were last year, especially when you look at the numbers. I mean, if you look at where we are right now, this same week last year, we were basically at the same number of active listings. And we did see a little bit of a drop from the beginning of the month on 4/1 up until 4/8 of about 5,000 new listings that came to the market.
This is all like national numbers.
These are national numbers. So last week we saw 54,769 new listings. The week before we saw 59,854. So we're way above where we were in 2023. I just don't know. I mean, do you see that continuing? Is that trend something you anticipate happening more and more?
Yes, but also I think that so if there's a buyer who wasn't looking last year, that doesn't really mean much to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, well, it's better than it was last year, you know?
Good point.
So what has been nice is if there's, a home that either if I have like a buyer client where we put in an offer and didn't get it, or we went out and saw it and they were kind of, had high hopes for it and then we're a little bit disappointed and we didn't end up moving forward with it. I feel like I can confidently say, like, well, we're going to keep our eye on what pops up next. Mm-hmm. And typically unless if it's like a very, very particular home that somebody's looking for on like one street or something like that, there are more homes that pop up that fit the criteria the next week, which makes it a little bit easier to kind of get over a home that either you didn't get or were disappointed by. So I feel like there are more things that are coming out every single week, which is great. But competition is still very fierce out there. I have a client who had their offer accepted yesterday. We were one of 12.
That means there's 11 losers in that situation. I think that's where it gets tough for a lot of people, is that you got 11 people that wanted to buy that house and couldn't. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a tough pill to swallow, and that's not going to change anytime soon. I mean, if you look at Lance Lambert did a really nice job on some of these charts here. Sarah's computer's at 11% right now, so we've got these charts here where they look at U.S. housing inventory for sale according to Realtor.com. So if you look at March 2024, we saw a significantly larger amount of homes come to the market than we did in 2023. So, I mean, that's important to see. I mean, we're seeing these numbers, that are growing. And when you look at the total number of homes for sale right now, at the end of March, we were at 694,820, according to Realtor.com. That's 130,000 homes higher than what we saw last year. And then compared to 2 years ago, it's almost double. It was 354,000 in March 2022. So we're seeing that with this labor market cooling, the Fed raising rates, it looks like it's more of a normal market, even though there is a lot of competition. If we look at new listings by month compared to 2022 and 2023, so again, March was growing at a decent pace compared to Realtor.com. It's ahead of where we were in 2020. I mean, this chart's a little tough to read here, but you're seeing that we're growing at a normal pace. I think the question's going to be, are we ever going to get back to these like 2019 levels? That's what everyone's looking at. So if you look at the data from Realtor.com and their measurement, it's a 15.5% increase coming from March. So that's not insignificant, but I don't think it doesn't help the 11 buyers that lost out on that property.
Right.
So what are you doing to keep people moving forward? Because I think there is risk of like, all right, well, this is great, but I keep losing.
Yeah.
Should I make a move? Like, what are those conversations like? Because I know you're having them quite often.
I think it depends on how receptive the client is to listening and how much they really do want to get into a home. So giving feedback for if we did put in an offer and it wasn't accepted, following up with that listing agent to find out specifically where we fell short, and then being able to provide that data, like, especially like, and because there are situations where I may be advised like, hey, I think this, and this would put you in the strongest position. And maybe, and it's fine. Like, you can't always check all those boxes. But then being able to go back and say, all right, we didn't get it because of this, and this. And especially if they're the same recommendations that I initially laid out, it makes going into the next one, like, you're a little bit more prepared with what you may have to do. And I know, like, for me on the listing side, like, very frequently when a client's offer wasn't accepted for an agent that put it in, they're coming to me and saying like, hey, I need to give feedback. Like, where did we fall short? What could we have done differently? Because sometimes, like, it's not that they're bad offers. Your competition's just, it's tough. So, and I think that when you get into the pool of 12 offers, you're looking for reasons to cut people's offer out, to take it off the table, right? Like, because you're going to have, when you've got 12 offers, you've probably got maybe 4 that are like the front runners, and then you've got then you've got a chunk there that are fine, and then some that are like not so hot. So it's kind of easy for the seller to eliminate the ones from the bottom rung. When you get up to those top ones, it can be kind of like splitting hairs for like, all right, well, where we need to eliminate something here, you know? So being able to go back and provide feedback for exactly where you fell short in that particular round.
Well, and so, I mean, I know you went through this over the weekend. I mean, you had a listing, priced at $4.25. Where'd that end up going for?
Am I allowed to say?
We don't have to give the address.
We don't say which one. $452, plus there were some other like side
some concessions. That actually netted the seller more. So you're looking at a home that, you know, went effectively, you know, 8-9% above the asking price, whatever the numbers are going to be. So with that, there's things, and you know, this is where a good agent's going to be able to help you, because we're in this climate now where buyer agency has been scrutinized dramatically. I know we had a training about this today that we're doing with our team, because in this NAR settlement climate, there's going to be a lot of things that agents need to get clear on what they can do differently to help folks. It's not just, hey, I'll get you into the property quickly. Like, that doesn't do it anymore, and that's what good agents should be doing. So, you know, you're seeing that we still have challenges around inventory growth, and what buyers really care about is getting the house. Like, I think that's really the fundamental thing. And unfortunately, a lot of agents don't want to spend the time to educate their folks. So we've come up with, basically, there's a 10-point plan to get your offer accepted, but there's a lot more to do there. Are you giving people up-to-the-minute, real-time information regarding inventory? I think that's very important. It's one of those things where I know you and I take it for granted. It doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
When it comes to winning an offer, one is getting a clear understanding about the paperwork before you write the offer, and then going through all the different things you can do. So here's what those things look like, and I'm just going to kind of run through the different points you can negotiate in an offer for all our folks that are listening right now. So the first question is, you know, price. Like, can you beat someone on price? That's obviously a big factor. You know, what I would love, Sarah, is the situation you had over the weekend. Let me know if this came into play or not. I'll run you through all these questions. So did price come into play?
Yes.
Okay. In terms of deposit, was deposit scrutinized? How much deposit money was was that something they looked at? Was that a consideration? May not have caused them to win, but were you looking for something significant there?
We were. We did not end up taking the offer that had the most deposit money down, but it was a significant enough amount that we felt confident with it.
And what I agree with you that it's got to be significant because you got to look at their financial situation. You got to figure, is someone willing to walk away from this money or not? And it could hurt. Someone who doesn't have a lot of money in the bank could be hurt by a lesser deposit than someone who has a ton of money in the bank. So a significant deposit is important. Typically, on the listing side, I'd recommend looking for 5%. That's kind of a good number.
Always the number I put in, and that's how I set up stuff when I'm writing an offer and what I expect to see on the listing side. And then situationally, if that can't quite be pulled, then we can factor it from there.
Yep. What about settlement date? Was the seller's preferred settlement date a factor here?
Yes.
Okay. Inspections being elected or waived?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we've got so far price, yes. Deposit, they talked about it. Settlement date was important. Inspections were important. That's 4. And you could get really granular and go through all the inspections. I'm grouping them all together as one because we'd be here all day. Now, if you're electing inspections, there's the idea of the line item concession. Did that come into play here? Or
it did not.
Were they waived?
Yes.
Okay. So in the past, though, that's worked pretty well where someone wants an inspection and there's like a $10,000 line item inspection exception or something like that. Paying transfer tax.
Did not come up.
Okay. But they did give another concession that netted the seller more money.
Yes.
So that's kind of the same thing. So now we're at 6. Was there a price escalation that was used?
Yes.
So that's 7.
For all 3.
So they all kicked in, which gets confusing.
Yeah.
So that's 7. What about an appraisal contingency or appraisal gap coverage or being willing to pay the difference?
Yes.
That's 8, right? And then did the lender contact you? Did you get any lenders calling you?
I reached out. Everything happened.
Well, you reached out,
quickly.
but I'm asking, did the lenders reach out to you?
Not for this one.
See, and that's an opportunity. Like, it doesn't matter. You're on the listing side. Who cares? But that's an opportunity right there. A lot of people don't go these extra steps. Did the lender actually reach out and say, hey, they're great, they're ready to go? And then that also, when I see a lender reach out, I see someone that's going to close on time, that's going to follow up, and you're not going to miss out on a bunch of stuff. Did anyone send you a video?
No.
Okay. That's another opportunity. Did you get feedback on all the offers coming through in showing time? Did someone say like, hey, we're interested and we're writing an offer?
Yes.
Okay. So that's good because I think that's another missed opportunity that people have. So we went through more than 10 there because I think you can kind of group some of this together. But the point is, not a lot of people always factor in all these things. And then, there can be some stuff that's a little wild that comes into play as well.
What I think would be also should maybe be added to the list there is reaching out and forming a relationship with the agent.
Yes.
So if you're the buyer, if you're on the buy side, reach out to that listing agent and talk to them. And not everybody picks up, but and you don't want to be overly bogging them down, especially if it's a listing where you know that they're getting a million phone calls. But, I think that goes a long way.
That's why we put the video in there. I think that's kind of the same thing. Some people are going to be more receptive to that than others, right?
Yeah.
I think some people don't, because the amount of calls that come in, it gets a little excessive sometimes. And hey, would they take a lower offer? And you got 15 of them. It's what are we talking about? So I do agree with that. Here's some other things to factor in. And this is what, and I just want to get your feedback on each one of these, and we'll take a break, Sarah, because we just covered this because it's really about delivering an exciting buyer experience in a very tough market right now. So up to the minute real-time property information, prospecting off-market properties in targeted neighborhoods. Have you done this before? Have you had success with it? I know I have. I mean, is that something that gets people excited when you're talking to them?
Yes. I have done it before. I feel like because it's something that you do put a lot of sweat equity into typically, I like to reserve that for motivated, serious, ready buyers, not so much for the one that has a lot of different reasons of why something wouldn't work. If I'm going to go now, also the flip side of that is even if it doesn't end up working for your buyer there, if you get the listing, I mean, that's a huge win. But if it is somebody that I'm going to be devoting time to specifically because I'm trying to get them into something, I want it to be a serious buyer.
For sure. And I would argue they have to be serious about buying in that neighborhood. It can't be oh, we changed our mind. They've got to say, I want to live on this street or something like that. Using the leverage of our sales team as an opportunity to bring off-market sales, I think that's the same thing. A proven negotiation strategy with 10 different ways to make the offer more attractive. We already talked about that. Leveraging agent relationships for negotiation. This is exactly what you talked about. Gather relevant intel to secure the home and get the best price and terms. What do you think about this?
Yes. You mean like basically looking at the comps to come up with a strategy for pricing for putting in the offer?
I would also say like talking to the listing agent if the home's been on the market a good amount of time because, even though we're in this fast-paced market, there's still opportunities to negotiate and get offers accepted. So I think that's something that's, overlooked. Analyzing sales data to ensure you're paying a fair price. We talked about that. Presenting offers in a professional manner. What's your experience with that?
Yeah, it looks a lot better if it's professional. You want all of the I don't want, if I'm on the listing side, I don't want to be chased. Let's say an offer looks pretty good, but I'm missing half the stuff. I don't want to have to go to you, buyer agent, and say hey, I'm missing the seller's disclosure. I'm missing this. I'm missing this. Having everything there, or if there is something that's coming, but the agent wanted to at least get the ball rolling on it, saying this will be in by this time, and then getting it to me by that time.
Yeah.
And putting down your, your summary or your cover sheet, or this is a summary of the offer, so that you still always are going to go through and make sure it is what they say that it is on the face. But so you know what you're looking at for each offer.
So I'll give you two examples of this here. One is something that happened to someone on our team, and another is a reason they got an offer accepted. The latter was the offer was presented so cleanly, and this I wouldn't do this as a listing agent, but some listing agents just literally forward the email they get over to the seller. That's what happens. That's how they present. I'm not a big believer in that. I think you should summarize it and make it simpler. That's obviously worked really well in the thousands of homes that we've sold, but that's what some people do. So you got to realize, it's not just going between you and the agent. Is your email typed professionally? Do you have a nice greeting? Is it professional? The flip side of that is, and the seller said in this situation, the agent, they said, wow, this is really professional, and the terms are better. This other one is close, but it's not very professional. I just trust the first one. Let's go with that. Sellers make decisions for interesting reasons. The flip side is someone on our team, the proof of funds they got was a screenshot of a bank account with no information on there. Yeah. That could be anybody's. You can make that on Photoshop, and agents will send these, oh, here's a screenshot. There's no name, no account number. It just says a number. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So you want to have an account statement with a name, like a real thing, and I think that's something that gets lost in a lot of places here. Presenting in a professional manner goes a long way. Helping and assisting in finding the best financing package. Is that something that you help people with? Shopping around rates, making sure the costs are okay?
Yes. I mean, when they send everything in, I always like to talk to the lender. But I guess in terms of, is this, I guess I'm not really sure if I fully go through that one, because I kind of feel like that's not quite my lane. And
but you give people options to talk to. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about, making sure they're shopping around a little bit. So you're absolutely doing that. Review homeowners insurance options. So one of the things we do is we have a free clue report that gets pulled for every single one of our clients on the buy side. Kevin Hamill, who's been on the show a lot, does that. Homeowners insurance can be really tricky if you don't have good coverage. It's a major problem, and no one ever talks about that. That's another point of difference. Navigating the inspection process. How many nasty inspections have you been through?
A lot.
And a lot of people give up on those things. Do you ever feel like a lot of people are just going to throw in the towel? I mean, it happens way, way often. And
I usually like to prep people. If it's my buyer that's getting inspections done on a home, that this is going to be a long report, and it doesn't mean that everything's on fire. It's very thorough. Yeah. We're going to be looking through for material defects. We're going to be we're going to go through everything thoroughly, but just because it's a long report does not mean that everything's wrong.
Well said. And sometimes these reports are way too long in the first place, which is a whole nother thing. So ensuring everything happens on time, reviewing the title report, going over final costs beforehand, and auditing the settlement sheet, and connecting with local contractors and vendors before, during, and after the sale. If you go through all that, that's way more involved than what I think a lot of agents are doing, where they just get you into properties. Mm-hmm. If you were to pitch that to somebody, do you think you'd get a much better response of hey, I want to engage with you as an agent? Or
yes, I think for a couple reasons. One, that's very thorough, detailed, and it's good representation. Who wouldn't want that? But also by pointing all of those things out, they are aware of all of the things that you're doing and that some of this stuff doesn't just appear out of nowhere. Like somebody had to take the time to go in, do these things, make these connections, get all the pieces put into place, have the conversations. And I think that sometimes people, because it's not what they're doing every day, they don't realize the stuff that happens on the back end and the time that gets put into a lot of the aspects of our job.
I couldn't agree more. And I think when you look at this, it's a lot of people forgot how to sit down with someone and make them feel comfortable about moving ahead. And in this new climate, if you don't have a plan and someone's required to sign an agreement before they go look at homes, this is the kind of plan I want to see. And it's no different than what we've been doing on the listing side for decades. So, in spite of all of this stuff happening economically, it looks like rates may calm down and everything else. This is going to be so critical for agents and for consumers moving ahead, because you're going to have someone that can navigate all this and explain all this economic data. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and talk about the DOJ case that is being reopened, unprecedented, next on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now, here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com. Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
Welcome back to Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're streaming live on YouTube. So we're going to be talking about the DOJ reopening a NAR investigation. This is unprecedented here. And then we are also going to discuss the 2024 Home Buyer and Seller Trends Report from the National Association of Realtors as well. So how much do you follow the DOJ, Sarah? Is this like a regular thing for you? Probably more than now you're in real estate. But, I mean, have you ever paid attention to this before?
No. Like not prior to.
Yeah.
So
the reason I'm saying this is that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to the DOJ, except unless you're in Washington. And the appeals court, and this has been going on for a while now, but on Friday the 5th, the appeals court gave the Department of Justice the green light to investigate NAR, the National Association of Realtors, specifically its rules around commission sharing. And, this is a tough one because it seems like we were finally getting into a calmer period. We've got this settlement that was announced, and now this new ruling by the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia just turned up the heat. So here's the timeline here. I just want everyone to understand how far back this goes. So in 2018, the DOJ's Antitrust Division started a civil investigation into specific policies of NAR in response to a complaint from an industry participant. I'd love to know who that person was, by the way. Yeah. April 2019, the DOJ issued the first civil investigative demand seeking information on commission-related NAR practices, including the participation rule. If you don't know what the participation rule is, that meant you had to offer out a commission if you wanted to be on the MLS. Didn't say how much. Could be $1, could be X percent, couldn't be zero. Then in June 2020, the DOJ issued the second CID, the civil investigative demand seeking information on NAR's newly adopted Clear Cooperation Policy. What the Clear Cooperation Policy says is that you have to put a home in the MLS. You can't have a private exclusive listing or anything like that. It has to be in the MLS or you can't market it. Then July 2020, negotiations between NAR and DOJ began for a possible settlement. NAR proposes the DOJ hold off on investigating the participation rule for 10 years. DOJ refuses. Then in November of 2020, the DOJ and NAR reached a settlement, entered a proposed consent judgment that addresses several NAR policies, excluding the participation rule and Clear Cooperation Policy. DOJ sends a letter to NAR closing the investigation into the participation rule and Clear Cooperation Policy. The proposed consent judgment is filed in district court along with a complaint and stipulation order. Sounds like it's done, right? Is this your assessment so far?
Yeah.
Then July 2021, the DOJ withdraws this proposed consent judgment after failed negotiation attempts. They issued a new subpoena seeking information on the participation rule, Clear Cooperation Policy, and other policies. NAR petitions the district court to set aside this CID and this new subpoena, arguing it violates the settlement agreement. January of 2023, the district court grants NAR's permission that this new subpoena breached the settlement agreement. The DOJ appeals the district court's decision. And then from the court's ruling, in our view, the plain language of the disputed 2022 letter permits DOJ to reopen its investigation. We therefore reverse the judgment of the district court. And now we're here. Now, with this decision, you're going to fall asleep here on me, Sarah? So the whole point is they opened it up. Tell me what you think about all this so far before I talk about the court's decision, because I think I'm way into this. You're into focusing on people and helping with their business. So I think the perspective here is a little different, as it should be.
I mean, it sounds like a lot of back and forth.
Well, a lot of back and forth, and I don't know in history that the DOJ's ever done this. Like, they entered into the settlement. The fishy thing here is that the settlement was agreed to, and then there's a new administration that comes in, and now it all opens up. And I think that has something to do with it, whether people want to believe it or not. I'm very purple politically, but I do value the real estate business, and it feels like we're kind of getting a raw deal here with this.
Well, but outside of all of this is where all of the commission lawsuits were happening.
Yeah, that's totally separate from this. Yeah, absolutely.
So I feel like it's just been a lot of stuff happening.
Has been a lot of stuff.
That sounds somewhat familiar. Just a lot of moving pieces from different parts.
Well, there's a lot of moving pieces here. And what ends up happening is that now there's this split decision that happened from the arguments that were made in front of 3 judges. And there was one dissenting opinion, so this was not unanimous. So it's kind of like when it goes to the Supreme Court, and this is what Judge Justin R. Walker, who insisted a reopening of the DOJ's investigation would violate a contract they knowingly entered into, which I tend to agree with. And maybe I'm biased, but we deal in contracts all the time, right? Yeah. As in every contract, each side gained something and each side gave up something. The realtors agreed to give up 4 policies that the DOJ considered anti-competitive. In exchange, DOJ promised that it had closed its investigation into 2 other policies. In a statement from the NAR spokesperson, Mantle Williams, as articulated by Judge Walker in this dissenting opinion, NAR believes the government should be held to the terms of its contracts. We are reviewing today's decision and evaluating next steps. And now the DOJ is free to continue its investigation into the commission sharing policies. And, all of a sudden this is like opened up again. I mean, I thought we were kind of past this with the settlement. And the intent of the DOJ, and they're involved in this MLS PIN settlement up in Massachusetts, to me is they're going to make it impossible for sellers to pay a buyer agent. I think that's their end game here.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Well, so that's unfortunate. Explain that. Like, what are your concerns with that?
I mean, I think that's going to not help anyone. No one, like if we're saying there's a give and take on both sides. That's a lose-lose for everyone. I'm a little surprised that who in the course of their investigation, are they just looking at documents? Are they talking to people? Are they talking to people in the industry? Are they talking to experts? I feel like there needs to be a little bit more focus on going beyond just all right, let's do this and then we'll see how it plays out. I think they need to think a couple steps beyond that for if we do X, then Y and Z is going to happen, and kind of see how this could play out depending on what they decide to do.
Well, I think that there's a lot of unintended consequences here.
Yeah.
Because what's going to end up happening, in my view, are a couple things. And we've talked about this at length with this NAR settlement. And there's some buyers that they have no cash besides buying the house. So now there's one of two things that could happen. They have to lower their offer to the seller. But here's the thing sellers aren't realizing. The money that comes out in cash in terms of financed dollars has a much bigger impact. If someone's got to come up with an extra $15,000, right? And they have $100,000 to put down on a home. So they're buying a home at $500,000, right? And then let's say $15,000 is the number, could be 10, whatever it is. Now they're down to $85,000. And if you want to put 20% down with $85,000, you've gone from $500,000 to just above $400,000. So that has a major impact on buyer affordability. That's going to be the first thing. We've got FHA issues that we can't, apparently FHA will not allow this right now. VA will not allow any sort of compensation on there. So now the government, who is supposed to be protecting our veterans, is now doing them a incredible disservice. And there's been no talk about altering these laws. So all of this stuff that's going on here, and from what I've seen, and I know we've talked about this today. I mean, our sales manager, Brian, he's been sitting in on appointments. I've been on the appointments. You've been on appointments. A lot of people think this is kind of nonsense here, and it's really hurting the consumer, especially home buyers.
Right.
That are already struggling to afford properties as it is.
Right.
So I don't know what the intent here is with this, but it's going to be a problem sooner or later if they continue to push this. And people are still going to want to buy and sell homes. But I mean, if we're looking for the housing market prices to come down, which I still don't see happening now, but it's as inventory grows, it's going to be a challenge. There's a lot of people that are going to be shut out here in terms of buying a property.
Right. And unfortunately, I think there are a lot of the same people that are already having a tough time getting into the properties as it is because it's been a competitive market. So, yeah, I do not think that it will be helpful at all.
Okay, and I agree. Now, I want to give you a couple opinions on this because I don't think people have been as maybe outspoken as they should be about this. So Chris Smith, he's been on the show, one of the founders of Curator. So he posted a couple tweets, which I thought was pretty interesting. So a lot of this has to do with antitrust and maybe real estate agents are overpaid. The average real estate agent makes $30,000 to $40,000 a year.
Right.
The median income in our marketplace is $87,000. So, I mean, I think that kind of says it for itself. Tell me what you think about these quotes. This is right from Chris Smith. For people who think real estate agents are overpaid, don't forget what their base salary is, $0. That's number one. I thought that was very interesting. The next statement that he put out, these are all on Twitter or X. Imagine spending countless hours working for someone for months and then never getting paid. That's the life of a realtor. The idea that consumers didn't know commissions were negotiable is hogwash. If that were true, then why have agents constantly been asked if they will lower their commission for decades?
Very true.
And I think this stuff is so obvious. And then you get the president out there saying, for the first time ever, commissions are negotiable.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, what world are you living in right now? And there is a major false narrative out there about this that keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. Now, I don't agree with the clear cooperation policy. I think that's not having to list properties in the MLS.
Right.
I mean, that's a seller's choice, right?
Yeah.
But who's to say the DOJ can make the decision? Let's say you and your husband are selling your home. Mm-hmm. So you can't offer out a fee for someone that brings a buyer? Like,
right.
is that impeding on your rights? Like, I mean, there's a lot of questions here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that definitely is overstepping. Like, I think that's fine. I mean, it's been for a very long time that if you were to to put it on the MLS and that, $1 was the minimum. I mean, that's the same as $0, right? So
what can you get for $1 today?
I don't even know.
Pack of gum? Like a pencil?
Right.
One pencil, singular pencil.
Yes. And not a mechanical one.
Yeah.
Like
those are like $1.29. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that while they shouldn't be able to set like any type of standard for it has to be a minimum of this that you offer out or it should be up to the seller if they want to and how much they want to. Mm-hmm. And they should be meeting with agents that know, kind of how this will play out. And all right, if you offer a commission, it could go this way, this way, this way. If you don't, this way, like present the seller with options and let them make the decision, but have the information come from somebody who's in the field and knows how this plays out because they're the ones doing it and living it every day.
Now, there are some cases, I know for a fact, that there are some companies very large in our marketplace that said, we're only charging this. We can't go below this. Now, that's a different story. That's a company-specific thing. We've worked together as long as you've been in real estate. Have you ever heard that come out? It's never come out of my mouth at all because it's not true.
Right.
And
there's a line at which, as an individual, you wouldn't go below.
You make a business decision.
Right.
Yes. Because I wouldn't work for $1 or $0. Right. And, there's builders out there that co-op at $500. And you're out there showing homes and they say, hey, we're going to get new construction. They go that route. This whole thing is ridiculous. And it's not antitrust. I think it's something that's being driven from another narrative. And the media has it's like fake news. I hate saying that, but these statements coming out of Washington are incredible. So this is going to be pretty interesting how this plays out. And I think there's a concern here now. The industry's under fire. So as an agent, what's your plan? I hope it's not a career change. I'd be very disappointed about that.
I think it's a combination of don't worry about the things that I can't control. Like whatever I think and say and do at this point, I don't think like in terms of how the law goes they're not going to listen to me. Mm-hmm. So kind of being informed as to what is coming so that you can prep, but demonstrating your value and potentially down the line being prepared to, switch to a different area that we haven't been in before, which is having conversations with buyers in advance and breaking down exactly what the fee that they will now be responsible for will be for your services. And that's all you can do. So
rentals in New York City, the tenants who lease the property, they pay a fee to the agent. Like this has happened, right? I have many friends that are like, yeah, this is how it works. This is what I had to do. So what's going to end up happening here is, as an agent, you need to be practicing your scripts, you need to know the contracts, and you need to have your presentation down. Yeah. That's not anything different than what good agents have been doing for decades. Yeah. They understand how to give a great presentation. They practice it. We've been on lots of appointments together. The script doesn't really change. Like, you've been on enough with me. You're probably like, here's what he's going to say next, and then blah, blah, blah. And so that's the important thing here is
here comes the joke.
Yeah. Yeah. My heart, there actually is a part where we do that. But the point is, we know the presentations, and you can give that presentation now, which is awesome. So agents are going to be able to win here. And I think this actually eliminates a big thing. And this is going to be a big lift for a lot of agents in some ways, having to sign a contract beforehand, because now they're not going to get burned by as many people. It's going to be the standard, but they're going to have to demonstrate value to do that. Right. All right, so let's take a quick break. We'll see what happens with the DOJ here. This will be very interesting, especially with an election coming up as well. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the home buyer and seller trends report that came out from the National Association of Realtors next on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents, and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us, it's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com. Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line.
All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. Not Tymon. That's close enough. I can give you the hyphenated name. Would you like that? So we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're going to be talking about the NAR Home Buyer and Seller Trends Report of 2024. This to me is always fascinating, and it's going to give people a great idea where to focus on their business. So if you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to talk about your real estate needs and schedule a time to talk with Sarah, just click on the link in the comments. So this National Association of Realtors 2024 Home Buyer and Seller Trends Generational Report is always very interesting. But the more information you get, the more it kind of stays the same, is what I've learned. So I want to start with the seller side, because I think this is where a lot of people are looking at, how do I grow my business? So most commonly cited reasons for selling their home. Number one, 23% desire to move closer to family and friends. 13% desire for a larger home. 10% change in family situation. 9% neighborhood has become less desirable. 9% home is too large. 8% relocation. 8% retirement. And then you get into stuff that's like moving closer to job, can't afford the property. Anything shocking there?
No.
Kind of more the same, right? It's always the D's.
Sounds like the reasons to move.
Well, and I think that agents often get caught up in like, all right, well, what's the new reason to move going to be this year? This business is predictable because life is predictable, right? Like people go through a cycle in life, and I think that's exactly what you're talking about here. So here's the one thing that actually jumped out at me, and I would be talking to your clients about. 23% of sellers offered buyer incentives. Is that number shocking to you given the state of the market?
Does that mean like, what is buyer incentive? Is that like...
So like a seller assist, a credit,
Okay, gotcha.
some reason for the buyer to come that's not the norm.
But I mean, could that be after the fact? Like, it's not that they were advertising that.
That I don't have. I'm just telling you what the report
says. In your
says.
offer, you're going in and saying, like, I need a seller assist of this so much. Maybe
I mean, it could have been accepted as a negotiation, sure.
I'd say if it's because of negotiation, yes. I'm not like completely shocked.
I think that just dispels the notion that you can't find a property that you can make work. And I think that's something I'd be telling people. You know, I get the question a lot. I was at an appointment on the way before I came here, and it's, hey, what about inspections? We want to sell as is, and this is an estate sale. Wait, 1 out of 5 properties sell as is right now. So and they're like, okay, great, and that kind of eliminates it. But you got to know this data to be able to handle these things. So on top of that, 89% of all U.S. home sellers enlisted the help of a real estate agent to sell their home. Pretty consistent. Here's how people found their agent. Tell me if this is a surprise to you. 65% found their agent via referral or used the same agent they worked with in the past.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Not surprising. So here's the other methods. And I think, for the agents listening out there, and we talk about this all the time, you're just mentioning how you just put someone under contract that's like a friend of a friend, a connection. For agents that they want to get more listings, you got to start working your sphere. Like it's so clear. Like you've been in our conversion workshop, and I mean, there's a lot of ways people find agents, but everything else, every other way used to find an agent is single digits in terms of percentage besides other, which means it's a lot of other things. Yep. Other was 11%. So website, 5%. Referred by another real estate agent. So like out-of-state referrals, 4%. Personal contact by telephone or email, 4%. Open house, 3%. Direct mail, 2%. Referred through an employer or relocation company. Saw contact on a sign. Saw a social media page. Newspaper. I didn't even know people still did that. When was the last time you bought a newspaper?
I have no idea. I don't think I've ever actually subscribed to one myself.
You know, the last time I bought one was when the Eagles won the Super Bowl and I framed it. That was the only time. Yeah. So there you go. Advertising specialty, a calendar or a fridge magnet. All of those were 1%. And
I like fridge magnets.
I'll get you a magnet, Sarah. I mean, you can get one, but I mean, like, you know what I'm talking about though. Like agents, like they'll spend $1,000 on fridge magnets with like the Eagles schedule. This will be my ticket to getting more referrals. It's really, you've got to work your database. And then these other things here can work at a high level. I'm not saying they don't.
I'm a little surprised that open house is only 3%.
Well, I think it's they visited the open house and met an agent. I mean, we know that most agents don't follow up well. So I would argue there's some agents that are probably converting really well at all of these things. Yeah. I mean, we get a ton of out-of-state referrals from agents constantly because we've built our brand up as an organization. I list plenty of homes. More than 4% of the listings we've taken, I've listed because of phone calls. Like, I mean, but we're doing it daily and consistently. Most agents don't have any sort of consistent behavior. So when you're hearing all of this, and we've got a training tomorrow. It's called our Listing Conversion Workshop, and we're going to ask everyone for their one thing to do to get more listings in the second quarter. What does this tell you should be doing as your one thing, Sarah? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Sphere.
Okay, well, what are you going to do? Like, make it more specific. Like, what are some of the ways you're going to work it? You're obviously getting business from your sphere. You just closed a sale from it yesterday.
Yeah, so I think one being knowing what's currently going on so that when it does come up in social situations, you are able to sound knowledgeable and be able to like know what you're talking about. Because real estate is one of those things that does come up, and it's not like it has to be you like driving the conversation towards that. Like it's pretty common for that just to pop up. So being able to speak to what is currently going on. And I think providing market analyses for properties, either like past clients that have been in it for a little bit, or just shooting out information to people in your sphere. Like, hey, did you know this is, the range that your home's probably like worth? Does that?
I think a video CMA or some sort of CMA a day campaign is great because that's what people actually care about. Right. And oftentimes, I mean, I spoke to someone I've known since I was 14 years old. Never had any business interaction with this person, and now they're thinking about like selling their house, right? Yeah. And we're a ways out. Like a year out is pretty common when you're talking to some of these people. And like we're going to be here another year. Great. That's awesome. Thanks for letting me know now. It's a great time to plan. What do you understand about the market? And it's an easy way to show your value. Like, hey, I'm just giving this to you to help you out.
Right. Well, and it's like if somebody is a year out, like, all right, cool. Let's talk about where, what the market looks like now. And then obviously when it is time, when you're ready to get this up, we're not going to just like pull this out of the file. We're going to reevaluate. Yep. Like it's good. And it's good to see where it was at different time periods. So it's always good to get the info.
Well, and so when I first met you, you were doing credit card sales.
Yes, I was.
And what I would hear that you did constantly was you would go like above and beyond for these people, like all the time. And did that help you sell more credit card machines?
I think so.
Yeah. So I don't think it's any different. It's probably why you're doing well at this. Because, I mean, it's easy to mail it in. But when and like you only show up when someone wants to transact.
Yeah.
But there's so much that goes on in real estate outside the transaction. I think that's where a lot of people miss the boat.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All right, so we're going to wrap it right there. That's it for this week's episode of Tool Time Real Estate Radio. You want to follow Sarah? She's at Ty_Ty Time. You can follow me at TomToole3RD, both on Instagram. And we're streaming live every week on YouTube. So if you got some value out of this, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and to schedule a call with our team and Sarah specifically, use the link in the comments. That's it for this week's episode. We'll see you next time on WWDB 860 AM.